Hello everyone and welcome to the Dyslexia Life Hacks Show. I'm your host Matthew Head, and in this episode I'm talking to Kirsty Heap. She's a coach for dyslexic leaders and managers. She started her corporate career in recruitment before moving into HR and operations, so she has plenty of experience to feed into coaching. She went to university and studied a master's degree in her 30s and has now set up Kirsty Heap Coaching in 2022. I'll put links to Kirsty Heap Coaching as well as other things we talk about, which will be available in the show notes, which are at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. Welcome to the show, Kirsty.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Matthew.
That's no problem at all. Where I wanted to kick off today's conversation was asking you about taking a master's degree in your 30s. I myself actually graduated uni at 31, so I have a bit of experience of being a mature student, but you did yours part-time while raising some children, which I certainly didn't.
Yeah, that was a real turning point for me, actually, because before then I'd really let my dyslexia hold me back. I didn't do A-levels because I was dyslexic, didn't think I could. I didn't apply for jobs because I was dyslexic. I didn't think I could do a lot of things. And I suddenly realised I hit a bracket within my salary, which I couldn't break through. And what was stopping me was I didn't have a master's degree. Every job I looked at within HR was saying I had to be what's called CIPD qualified. So it was one of those junctions in life where I had a choice. I either turned right and went down the master's route, or I turned left and let my dyslexia hold me back. And that was really how I saw it. So I basically gave myself a long, good talking to and said, enough's enough. And I read in a book, actually, a quote, and it said, being strong means bidding farewell to the victim role. And she who does not seethe her own strength is helpless. And it was like someone had turned a light bulb on for me, because I thought, that's what I've been doing. I've been playing a victim role on this, and I've been blaming things on my dyslexia. And there's no reason why I can't do things because of it. I'm the one holding myself back, nobody else. So the masters for me was a real point to prove to myself that I am capable and I could do, especially education stuff, because school wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy school. And that was a challenge. So the idea of going back into studies in that sort of arena scared the living daylights out of me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. It did scare the heebie-jeebies from me. I had to do a part-time one because I had 2 children, and who I still have. But
you haven't got rid of them yet. Yeah.
No, they're still with me. But having the children and working at that time full-time meant the only option, and I was a single mum as well, meant the only option was to do it part-time. So now part-time meant I had to go to university every Friday and every Saturday, every 3 weeks, and then do additional studies on top. So I was very fortunate that I had a good supportive network around for people that would look after the children. But it was also a point to show them, if you really want something in life, you have to put the hard work in. And you actually have to maybe go back and do things that you might actually feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yes, yeah.
So that was what it was. And I went back and it was 3 years, and it was 3 years of blimmin' hard work. I'm not going to lie, it was not easy. And it wasn't easy because having to get my head back into all the language, like that education language. And,
yes, yeah.
And having to do... I can't think what the word is now, referencing, the Harvard referencing. I've never done that. So that was really tricky, but I passed all my exams first time. The house was literally littered with Post-it notes around there. And that's the way I revise and study. And what I found interesting was the children ended up reading the Post-it notes. So they were able to quote the years of certain acts, and what constitutes different laws and different HR terms. So it was quite amusing that they actually learnt along the way with me. But it was an enjoyable process at the same time, because it was that development of myself. And that's what I was most proud of at the end, was not just passing it in a way was a minute thing now. It was bigger than that for me. It was the big challenge of, you've done this. You've proven to yourself that you're in control of your dyslexia. You're in control. You decide your destiny. You decide what you want to do. It doesn't control you. It never has. And whereas once it felt like a weight around my ankle, it actually felt like I'd cut that off and had started to embrace it in a way and understand it. And my son's dyslexic as well. Mm-hmm. So it's a kind of another poignant moment to him of showing him, without telling him, it doesn't make any difference. And I found that really interesting because he views his dyslexia in a totally different way to how I did when I was growing up. It doesn't faze him at all. It's never stopped him. Yeah. He's now at university studying quite happily. And, he hasn't let it hold him back how I did in my early years.
Yeah. So you were saying about doing your masters, but you said you didn't really have any A-levels because your dyslexia held you back on that. Mm-hmm. What did you have to do any of them to get into university in the first place? So how did you manage to meet the sort of entry grades?
Bit of a fluke, eh? So I did my GCSEs, got 5 Bs in that. Can I say both Bs in English language and English literature as well? Just want to add that in there. And I went to college and I did a GMVQ in leisure and tourism because it was all coursework based. Had no interest in leisure and tourism. I literally, absolutely none. I literally did it because it was coursework based, and I was told I would be better at coursework. And it's amazing. Yeah, and it's amazing the things you're told at school by other people that you just latch on to and believe. Yeah, yes. You're dyslexic, so you're going to find exams hard. You're dyslexic, so you will find coursework based easier because you won't have the time pressure. Oh, okay. And I would be like a nodding dog and just accepted what people told me. Yeah. So I did my GMVQ, and then when I got into recruitment, I did, must have been a few years in, I did a certificate in personal practice, but I also really enjoyed my maths size within recruitment. So I went and studied a AAT, which is an accountancy kind of qualification. So I did that. And that AAT advanced level, technician level was enough with the certificate of personal practice and the amount of experience I'd had. They allowed me on, which I was very grateful for. Yes. So it is quite helpful to have done that. I ended up with a BTEC national diploma that allowed me to get straight on a uni course. For similar reasons, there was no way I was doing A-levels, although I was really good at exam and hated coursework. So I tended to give me my 15 minutes and I'll work it out as long as it's not an essay-based thing. That's really interesting because I read somewhere in your profile that you got statemented dyslexia as a 7-year-old. Yes. So actually, that's one of the few people who've been on this podcast that's been statemented at an early age rather than in their teens or 20s when they're at university. How did that come about? Was it a teacher that noticed something in you? No, that was my mother. Okay. I was a chatty child, very chatty. I have older siblings who are 10 and 8 years older than me. So I learned lots of words that one shouldn't know at such a young age. But I was very chatty. But yet when it came to writing things down, I would be very limited. And my mum found that quite strange because she would say, right, tell me a story. You've got to write a piece about a story. And I would verbally tell her about this magnificent house with this door, and I'd go into detail. And then when I wrote it, it would be the girl walked to the door. Yes. Like, but that's not what you said. Yes. Yeah. I was like, no. And she's like, why aren't you writing what you've said? Oh, that's too many words and I don't know how to spell them and I don't want to. And I really pulled back. So she then realised there was very much a difference between what I was saying and what I could write. And I also started having a stutter as well. And she went to school and said, I don't think, something's quite right. She's struggling. And I also, when people were sounding out words, cat is cat. And I'd go, character. It's never going to be cat to me. And I've never been able to understand. I think it's amazing how people can sound a word and then say the word. I really struggle with that. So hence my mum pushed at school and said, no, I really think something's kind of off kilter here. And basically she got me a private assessment that said, oh yeah, she's clearly dyslexic. And that was the kind of starting point. But I think because I was such a young age, I remember going into the assessment area and I remember sitting outside the room and my parents going in and talking about me, but not being able to hear anything and not really understanding what was going on. It was just this mumble of words. And I remember sitting there thinking, I want to run away. I want to run away because something's wrong with me. Because I knew I was getting a test because there was a problem. So to me, it was a problem and there was no cure. And I was told, you have something called dyslexia. And I was like, right, what's that? And, it's explained to me as you will struggle with your reading and your writing and other elements. And none of it made sense to me, to be honest. I was 7. How is it going to make sense? So all I took from it, it's a problem and there's no solution. And when I saw the word dyslexia, I'm sorry, but who made that word so blooming hard to spell? Come on.
Yes. Yeah, it seems to be a bit of a running joke, doesn't it? Like, really?
Yeah, it's just evil and cruel.
Yeah.
So I never actually knew that there were any positivity or positivity. I'm great at making up words and using the wrong words. That's one good thing with my dyslexia. I never knew about the positive side of it. So all the strengths that I now understand are my dyslexic strengths, I just thought were normal strengths. And I never realized they were because I was dyslexic and interlinked. So as a child, I wanted to get rid of my dyslexia. I hold my hands up to that. I wanted it gone.
Yep.
Wanted it gone. Didn't want anything to do with it. So my way of dealing with that was to bury my head in the sand when it came to learning about it. Didn't want to hear. Do you want to talk about it? Don't want to know. I'll quite happily take all the extra time. I'll take that. And I'll take the different marking schedule. Oh, yeah, give me that. But understanding it, no.
Yeah.
And I had private lessons at school, which were really helpful in lots of ways, but they weren't helpful that they were done in lunchtime. So,
that's helpful. Oh dear.
So all I want to do is run about with my mates.
Yes.
I want to be the normal child.
Yep.
But oh no, I'm the special one that has to go to the extra English lessons and sit there and go through stuff and then be told, oh, you've got a reading age of whatever. Now run along back to your English lesson. You've got to be kidding me.
Did you have any taken to one side with a teacher assistant during class lessons, or was it mostly just the lunchtime stuff?
Just lunchtime. I was privately educated. We had no teaching assistants in the class. It was just one-on-one teacher. They weren't very equipped, shall I say, when it came to dealing with me. So clear example is you'd go and get your test results. They would write it up on the board, the names and your percentage and a nice line of where the pass mark was. Well, there's no point starting at the top. You might as well start at the bottom.
Yeah.
And we'll see where your name comes, Kirsty. Oh, look, there it is. Brilliant.
Yes.
And is it above or below the line? Below the line. Great. For everyone to see.
I don't know what practice that is, but I don't understand a ritual humiliation is going to get you to do any better.
No. And I think it was, I'm in my mid-40s now, so maybe it was just the time, but confidence annihilated with it. I'd be embarrassed about it. And then the comments may come by the teacher, oh, but you need to remember you're dyslexic. So, well done this time.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you very much. That's really helpful. Yeah, oh, God.
Yeah.
So, it's that classic thing, is that you watch a load of dyslexics cringe as somebody says, recount the story where you had to read something in class. Yes.
Yeah, and that's when my hand would normally go up and go, I need the loo. Yeah, you work out the strategies. It's going to come to you in 5 minutes. So if you go for the loo now, you might get out of it.
Or I had a classroom with pillars in it, and I would move seats. So I was trying to just out a teacher eye line. So is anybody not read yet? Silly things like that. It's silly now, but at the time, I think similar to you, I just wanted to fit in. Like, I didn't want to be the person sat at the side, or the person that went out for an hour, and all this kind of stuff.
No.
Or sit there with colour filters on your books, or different pens, or bits of rubber around them for grip, and all this kind of stuff. So no. I want to be normal, whatever normal is.
Exactly. I felt so. And that was the thing. I felt different within myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yet I wanted to be that grey person, the one that blended in.
Mm.
Totally opposite now. I don't want to blend in. I want to be me.
Yes. It's a quote by Mark Twain, is it, be yourself because everybody else is already taken.
Very good. I like that one.
Or maybe wrongly attributed to Mark Twain, but we'll go with that one.
Yeah, I like that.
So obviously, you had an ed psych assessment at 7, and I just want to tie a little bit of your master's degree into this. So, did you get reassessed when you applied to your master's?
Yeah.
And how did you find the reassessment? Obviously, now as a 30-something, it's a lot different doing it when you're an adult.
Yeah, I actually was interested in it.
Yeah.
Because I got
knew what was going on for a start. Yeah.
Exactly. I got reassessed when I had to do my must have been my GCSEs or GMVQ. I had to have another assessment then. And that one wasn't great, because I remember having a little spat with the person who did the assessment, because I was told I had an attitude problem, and I said, no, it's the way you're speaking to me. I'm not thick and not stupid. So yeah, I was that sort of person. But when I got to university, it was totally different. One, because I was flabbergasted. What, you're going to give me a laptop and a printer? Oh,
free stuff. Yeah.
This is amazing. And software that I can talk to, and it's got a ruler. Wow. But it is the fact of sitting down, and they spoke to me like a human being, I was going to say, but they spoke to me like a human being. Like a fully fledged adult, yeah. Yeah, I was a proper adult. And they got me to do different things. It wasn't about spelling suddenly. And that's what, in my mind, I was getting assessed, I was going to have to spell, I was going to have to do different things like I had before. But no, this had like blocks in with shapes. Yes, and I had to match the shapes. Oh my goodness, I love that. I love doing that anyway. So I was in my element, and I'm sure there was something word searchy wise or something like that, and I love that. And then there was a bit of kind of reading in colours, but it wasn't about that spelling element and that heavy duty spelling or the heavy duty reading. And they're the bits I really remember, because I remember before having to read something in a previous assessment, and then they questioned me on it. And I went, whoa, no. You asked me to read it. You didn't ask me to listen to it. So I read the words, I didn't listen. So yeah, the assessment in university was actually really enjoyable. I enjoyed it, seriously. Yes. I similar thing. I was mid-20s when I did my second one, and it was really interesting because you kind of become curious about how your mind works. And listening to this professional, I really must get an insight on this podcast at some point. But listening to this professional of how it works and what this does. And I remember doing the shape thing as well as the reading passage, and reading the passage out loud wrong, but remembering all the information and all this kind of fun and sort of quirks like this, and just talking you through it. And it's great. And as you say, then you get the support at university, which clearly for yourself, like myself, was a laptop. What assistive technology did you have on that laptop? I had, so on the laptop, I had a ruler functionality.
A ruler functionality.
Yeah, a ruler functionality. So I could have my text up, and I could have a ruler that then would follow down, because I quite often will skip words, lines. It would keep me kind of level. I had this is going a bit old school now, isn't it? I had a dictionary on there. So that was quite handy. I had Dragon, kind of like a Dragon Speak. I can't remember whether it was Dragon Speak or not. So I had that on there. I was given a dictaphone as well, so I could record my lectures. And I'm sure there was something else. Claro Read was something that was on there.
Yep.
Some bits I used, some bits I didn't.
That was going to be my next line of question, really, was which bits did you use? I used to find the dictaphone, I didn't use it somewhere in its box, even here now, because sitting in front of a lecture with the dictaphone in front felt really kind of like you. But I know lots of guests on this podcast who loved it.
Yeah. So, okay, let's start on the dictaphone then. The dictaphone, I did use for lectures and recording in certain instances, and I sometimes listened back to them. But what I found more helpful was using them for revision. But I never listened back to my revision notes, but I recorded them onto the dictaphone, which even to this day sounds weird, but it's because I would use little cards, like record cards, like
the key cards,
cards, write my notes on.
Yeah.
And then I would read them out onto the dictaphone. And I think because I was so worried about my pronunciation of the words that I actually started retaining it. So I never listened back to the recordings, but what I found was by doing that, I was retaining the information.
Yes, that kind of. Do you find it now, actually? I do this with practicing speeches and talks and stuff, so best man speeches, or when I've done stuff at shows, that I need to have the thing nailed verbally by talking out loud to the room I'm in over and over again. And then I'll record one of the last ones and play the recording back and bullet point stuff just to catch me if I get lost.
Yep, I do that. So even if I've got to do presentations in meetings, or if there is a board meeting or a meeting with directors, and I know there's going to be certain topics I need to talk about, I will role play them and practice them. And I need to stand up and do that. I find I have to stand up, doesn't work sitting down, which is also why I use a standing desk. I find it a lot easier to use a standing desk than a sitting desk. Yeah. And so I do a lot of role play when it comes to things like that. The technology I didn't use so much was actually the online dictionary. Because I know it sounds probably really daft, but asking friends how to spell something is a lot quicker than me trying to look it up.
Yep.
And because it wasn't a dictionary where you could spell into it how you would think, you had to kind of get at least a few letters right.
Yes.
Well, that's bloody hard work, isn't it?
Yeah. Learn your target audience. Yeah.
Let's start with physics. Well, there we go. I'm going to be there a long time. It's just so. For me, I used to ask people, and then I have been known to call up people and just go, hi, I just need to know how to spell this. So my friends would go, yep, give it to me, and that'd be it. Bye, hang up, because they know, or no, I'm in the middle of typing something and I just need it now. I mean, hey, Siri, that's just a fantastic scenario. That is my lifeline.
Oh, yes, most definitely. Mine too. Having a mobile phone that you can ask how to speak it out loud is really helpful. It's one of the hacks on the site.
I use it daily, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
The ruler I used a lot for reading. I used that a heck of a lot. And I then started, when I had to read textbooks, I would then actually get a ruler and use a physical ruler down my books to help me.
Yep.
So that was so kind of having something electronic that I then put it into the more practical use, and I still do that now. Dragon Speak I used.
Yes.
I used that a lot. And once it kind of got used to my voice, that was really helpful. I think looking back with uni, the one thing I wish that my kind of lecturer tutor hadn't said to me is when I got to my dissertation, she said, "Oh, just write. And I said, "Yeah, but I can't even remember now what the word count was. I think it's 10 or 15,000 words. She went, "Just write, you'll be fine." 25,000 words later, I'm then told I've got to cut down on my words. Don't tell me just to write, because I can now just write.
Yes, yeah, because I bet you just stood up with the headset on for Dragon and chatted away and let it catch up with it. Yeah,
exactly. And because I would say the same thing maybe 2 or 3 times, but in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
Or I would add in extra words that you don't need, which I still do. The amount of times I still do that, and I look back on an email, I verbally do it, look back and go, you can get rid of that and that then. You don't need it.
It's my favourite one to Dragon tends to be where you said new line and it hasn't picked up that you mean do a new line, and it just says new line, stop, comma in the middle of the sentence.
I've had that where I've kind of tried to do, I've gone £sign and then numbers, and it's like, no, okay. So it's fine. It's not in my brain, is it? So it can't understand me perfectly.
No, it cannot. One day.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I thought was really interesting, I was sort of seeing you did your degree part-time while juggling your job and raising kids. One of my assumptions when I went to uni in my late 20s is there's no way I'd be able to do this part-time, dyslexia and all that. But you clearly did. So how did you juggle all that as well as give yourself enough space to get the work done?
Discipline, persistence, stubbornness, and determination. Right. I was not going to fail. That was not an option. And I wanted it. I really wanted it. So that was the real driving force. And I love to be organised, and I love a schedule, and I love a timetable. And it was a case, I mean, even my kids now, well, I've asked them, what does the word dissertation mean to you? And they both shuddered. And I was like, ouch. And they went, yeah. Mum, we do remember you kind of over breakfast, maybe raising my voice a little bit to ask them to be quiet, because I was trying to write a dissertation, don't they know? And they just need to be quiet. Because I would try and get up earlier before they were up, so then I could have quiet. I find trying to write, especially things like dissertations or trying to focus on things, very difficult if there's other noises. Open plan offices, no, I find them really hard. So I needed it to be quiet. So that meant it was either before they were up or when they were in bed. And they actually learned, because I'm trying to think how old they were when. So I started it in 2009. So one of them was 9 and one of them was 5 when I started it. And so they were still pretty young. So they were kind of going to bed at a reasonable hour. But at the same time, we would all sit down and do our homework together.
Okay.
Mummy's doing her work. You're sitting there doing your homework. But I would try and do bits that then meant I could interact with them as well. So if one of them needed, an answer question, would ask me a question, I could give that to them without it taking away too much from what I was doing. So maybe I'd be reading while they would be doing their homework. But I wanted them to understand that you can always learn. You end school and you stop learning. Life is about learning. That's the way I feel we grow and develop. And the fact I find learning really interesting now, and I love it, I find quite ironic considering I didn't like school.
It's great when you put yourself in the right environment, isn't it?
Yeah. and there had to be silence. So it was just scheduling. And I remember I would be working full time. I'd be working kind of part-time, full-time, so I'd have that Friday off. So there's an element of when I was doing my course, when I was working full-time and I'd just have the Friday off. And then partway through, I changed and had a part-time job. So I was working kind of more school hours, like 9 till 3:30 instead of 8 till 5. But when I was working 8 till 5, I remember picking them up from the childminder at 6 o'clock, getting home. The childminder would have fed them, which was very kind of her. And I would literally bath them, put them to bed, and I would open my books. And I'd work till midnight. The alarm clock would go off at 5, and we'd start the day again. And I did that for a year and a half of it. And it was a 3-year course.
Yes. What was your job at the time?
I was in recruitment. I was working for a call centre down in Bournemouth, which is about an hour's travel for me. So I had a 2-hour commute each way, which was why the childminder was an absolute angel.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you find it all right working till the middle of the night? Because I find I get worse from about 10 o'clock onwards.
No, I don't find it all right at all. And I would do that for probably 3 nights a week, I'd say. Then I'd definitely have a night off, and I'd try and, at least 2 nights off. Weekends, I might try and do it at different times. So looking back now, I don't actually know how I did it.
It's funny, isn't it? Like, the word that comes to mind is you were relentless. And it's funny.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I was reviewing my university studies for something else recently, and it's that, where is that non-stop part of me? And I think it's just something you find for a brief period of time to do this thing that you're all in and you have to do and you want to do. That's the important. You want to do, you want to kill it, you want to smash it, and you want to maybe prove younger you, somebody else in your life wrong, maybe.
Yes. There is a long list of people I wanted to prove. There was definitely people I wanted to prove to, old bosses I'd worked with. I needed to, actually. It's not I wanted to. I needed to prove it to me more than them. But I think they were the excuse in some way I was using. But I needed to prove it to me.
Yes. Shatter self-limiting beliefs.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why it was such a pinnacle point and the turning point within my life.
Yeah, yes. It's really good you managed to do that. What was your grade in the end? You got a merit or a distinction out of it?
I got a merit.
Nice. Good.
I don't want to be a show-off, you know.
Yeah. Merit's the best grades. They're also my grade.
Good.
So did that then open the door in your HR career?
Yes.
The roles you wanted after that? Absolutely.
The salary bracket, I don't mind saying it was capped at like 30,000 before. That just opened that up. And I've never looked back since in that sense. And what I find quite ironic in some ways is, do I actually see that my master's degree has come into play in the workplace ever? I'm sure there probably are some places, but not majorly.
No.
I really feel it was a tick in a box.
It's, yes. Not yes, because I do use a bit of my master's in my work, but I very much see things like that as passports. You need them to access something else. So it's not a tick feels a little bit sort of degrading what you learn as the master's, but a passport, you need it to access the next thing. Yes.
I totally agree with you. It is definitely that passport, and I have that certificate, and I'm proud I have that certificate.
Pinned up on the wall somewhere?
It is actually right beside me. It's right next to me at the moment, but it's not on the wall, but I have had to have it out something. But no, I am really proud. But I do have a picture up on the wall of me in my gown.
With your scroll. Yeah,
exactly. And yeah, I am really proud of it. And even in the front piece, I remember kind of having to write something about, any thanks given. And I did actually put in there about my dyslexia and how this was me gaining control of it. So, yeah.
So not only did the master's degree give you the passport jobs with higher salaries, did you find confronting your dyslexia as part of it improving, I guess, some of your held beliefs, misheld beliefs wrong, and showing yourself you can do this? Did you find out that accelerated your career even more than it would have done just having the master's degree, so to speak?
Yes, 100%. It was about that inner belief and that inner confidence. And I felt like a different person after it. And it was the fact of that real kind of pat on the back. I'm blooming proud of myself. I'm really proud of myself for doing it. And I'm proud of myself for growing up, for want of a better word, because I think I was being a bit of a stubborn little child of not wanting to understand about my dyslexia or learn about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that I have learned about it because I understand it more. And by understanding it is me. So I understand me more. So by understanding me more, I know how to help myself more, which means I'm more confident within my own body. And like I say, I don't want to blend in. I have no, do I still feel different to other people? Yeah. Do I do things different to other people? Yes. But I also can have a bit of a laugh about my dyslexia now. Someone made a comment about my handwriting, said, "Oh, your handwriting's quite difficult to read." I said, "Yes, it's because I'm in HR. It needs to be confidential. It's called confidential handwriting." and they just went, "Nice one." I went, "Yep, there we go." But I can have a laugh about it. Apparently, I make up words. I didn't even know I did it until my CEO chuckled, and I went, "What's so funny?" They went, "That's not a real word." I went, "Oh, it is. It's in my dictionary." And they went, "It's brilliant, Kirsty. You do it all the time. You blend two words together, but you say them with such confidence that you make it sound like it's a real word."
Any particular favourites?
No, because this is the thing. I can't even remember doing it, or I don't even know. And I've got to write these things down. I want to know them.
Yeah, you'll find somebody reflecting back at you once. You'll be like, "Good word use. That was from you. What are you going on about?"
Exactly. Maybe that should be one of my kind of life goals, to go and get one of my made up words in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. So, the inner confidence and the general mindset about it. And I know for me that if I actually have a structure and routine, so my mornings, I get up earlier than what I would need to exercise or go for a walk in nature. I find walking in nature very calming. Yes. I may do some meditation. I may do a bit of reading. But by having some time in the morning to have some me time, then sets me up right for the day.
Okay.
Which then means I'm calmer, more focused. I'm more relaxed in a way. So when I get into a work environment, if it's stressful, if I'm getting questions, I feel better prepared to deal with it. Therefore, my dyslexia doesn't irritate me, because it can irritate me sometimes. When I can't think of the right word, that can be really blooming frustrating.
Yeah.
But I find, or I've kind of reflected and gone, actually, when I've done this morning routine, my day I felt more in control and focused and ready for, compared to the days when I might go, "Oh, do you know what? Not today. Let's leave the alarm clock. We'll let it going off at 6:30 instead of, 6:45. My day doesn't feel so right.
Yeah.
I'm already feeling a bit rushed, out of kilter. And then, I just feel more stressed already at the start of the day. And then I will go and get more frustrated if I can't remember words, or if I'm having to type something, or I rereading. It just gets frustrating.
No, I could see all that, to be honest. I tend to find I need to win the 8/8:30 to 10 o'clock part of the morning at work. And then it's like all the inertia's there and it's rolling. And if I've been distracted or stuff, it's just a slow slog for the rest of the day. So I could sort of skip your career a little bit, because I feel like quite a lot of what you've just mentioned probably ties in more to your coaching parts of what you've just set up. So you alluded to earlier having that as a part-time thing. So you still working in HR at the minute while setting up your coaching on the side, so to speak?
Yeah, I'm doing that. So I have a role in HR and operations, setting up a new SEND school. I'm working for a new company that's building different things, which is great. But one of the reasons why I took the job is because the boss is someone that I'd worked with before, had a good working relationship, and they know that I wanted, or they knew then I wanted to start my coaching business, and they've always been very supportive. So that was one of the reasons I took the job. So then I do coaching on certain days, and I do that job on certain days. So yeah, and I went into coaching because being in HR and being in recruitment, I'd seen too many people suffer with their dyslexia. I'd seen too many people, like, to be honest, the younger me, not disclosing it to their employer, not understanding it, battling against it, or getting into a new role, whether it be becoming a manager, but having no idea how to manage people. Why would they? They'd never had any training, and nobody actually helping and supporting them. And that's where I was like, actually, the bits of my HR role I really enjoy are performance development. And I realised I'd been doing a lot of coaching within my HR role with different departments and different people. And that's where I was like, right, I actually want now to really get my dyslexia to work for me, and I want to help other people with them. I don't want anyone suffering in silence.
That's quite interesting. So I'm going to jump around probably a bit between the HR role and the coaching, because it feels like they're very interlinked, and I've got loads to ask. So trying to pin a question. But first of all, let's go with dyslexia as a HR professional. Feels like that would be a department within an organisation that are turned more onto neurodiversity, or it's the department that finds it first. So was that your experience, or am I completely barking up the wrong tree? I would find that lots of people expected me, being in HR, not to have dyslexia because of the documents I might need to write or do. I found that certain companies were more open to it, but I also found a lot of lip service being given to it. And what I mean by that is, oh, yeah, okay, that's great. Fab, thanks for letting us know. Brilliant. Full stop. It's like, whoa. Are we not going to help this person? Are we not going to discuss this? And it would only when it would come up in a capability meeting that then it was a case of, oh, we need to actually do something to help them. Yeah, that's kind of what we've been saying the whole time. So when I got into more my manager role element, I was more aware of neurodiversity, and I was trying to get people to be more open about it. But people will only be open about it if they're going to feel supported by a company. Yes. And that's very much their corporate culture as a whole, rather than just the HR function, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's an area with my coaching that I'm actually really wanting to explore at the moment, and try and link in with companies and say, look, you want to say you want to be open, have me in as a confidential person, as a third party that employees can contact, share with me that they've got neurodiversity, they want that support, talk through, we can discuss strategies, but I won't tell the company who they are. I will tell the company, I had 3 calls this month from, and depending on the size of the department, I might share that. But to try and get that company to understand that people, they do have neurodiverse people, but they're not feeling comfortable sharing that at the moment. So the company then can try and work on their internal culture to make people feel more comfortable about sharing it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is something. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Getting the internal culture is something that moves more like an oil tanker, doesn't it, rather than an agile thing. And what sort of industries were you involved in out of curiosity?
Education, mainly schools.
Okay.
And one thing I found from becoming a senior leader was I took the decision to put on my email that I was apparently dyslexic. And I found that a real turning point. And I did that because, one, I wanted to show everybody else that it is okay to be open and honest. And that was why I did it, was to try and encourage them. But I also did it to pre-warn people that sometimes there might be a spelling mistake in my emails. So It's a bit like a caveat to cover my backside.
Yes. I've started seeing that more and more. Like, I reach out to a few people via email to do with the website and podcast, and I'm starting to see that email signature creep in a lot more often now.
Yeah, I got it as an idea out of the bigger picture book of Amazing Dyslexics. And there was someone in there that had put it, and I thought, I love that idea. And actually being in HR, that would be great to actually be that forward thinking, sharing in, it's got to come from top down.
It does indeed. It does. It does need, as you say, like you get a lot of people who've got all that and then proudly autistic or whatever on the bottom of their email signature, and everybody just looks at, okay, cool. And then, that's why that word is that word.
Yeah.
But maybe they mean this word. I'll phone them and check.
And I have made, I get other people to proofread my work, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I wrote a letter and it was about mediation. I changed the word to medication halfway through the letter. Now,
you need medication, to survive the mediation,
and I spelt it right. So the spell check didn't pick it up. And of course, I reread it. Well, I read it as mediation because I'm thinking that's the correct terminology. Yeah,
you get snow blindness to it, don't you?
Yeah.
It's just like you read the word you think it says. Yeah.
Exactly. So my proofreader came back and went, do you know, I think they could both do with medication, but I think you mean mediation the whole way through. I was like, and that's why you proofread the letters before they go out.
Yep. Yeah. I've done the same. I'm talking about spare parts and put spares in for everything. And they come back, it's like, do we need spares? Well, I'd take some spares. But spares are optional if you want to fend off the fishing and all three at this particular point of year.
Yeah, exactly.
So it feels like the coaching and your HR job very much go hand in hand. Very interchangeable with each other. What sort of dyslexic strength do you feel comes to your HR role and your coaching? What does that add? How does that benefit you for the creativity and the alternate thinking I could see sort of coming out during our conversation?
For me, it's problem-solving skills is one that is kind of high on my thing. And just communication and personal interaction and understanding people. And I seem to be able to build relationships with people quickly and gain trust. And I think it's the reasoning skills as well. And I think that has come into play in both roles a lot. But I think also it's the communication, it's that listening.
Yes, yeah.
I love listening to people, despite doing lots of talking now.
Making my life easy.
But I'm curious and I'm inquisitive.
Yeah.
So that questioning that comes from being a coach is something that is a natural instinct. I want to know more.
And I know no two people are the same. But if person A come to you for coaching or even come to you via HR role, what is the sort of process you tend to walk them through initially?
It's finding out what they're looking for and trying to work out what it is that they're trying to solve. Because there's normally a problem or a frustration. So it will be identifying exactly what that is, but then exploring that. Because not always is what they think, what they present or come with may not actually be what the hidden issue is. So sometimes it can be looking back to find out why they think or feel something. Other times it will be talking through those strategies, and it will be a lot of questioning by me for them to actually work out what it is they're wanting and how they can help themselves. Because as maybe I don't want to blow my own trumpet too much, but I'm pretty good at problem solving. But I'm not here to solve the other person's problem as a coach. That's not as powerful. You need to solve your own problem and find your own strategies and tools, try them. Then we'll reflect on them. We'll discuss them again. And I will maybe give suggestions or help if someone's really struggling in an area. But that's for them to work out their own problem. That's the power.
Yeah, you kind of talk it through and I guess sort of guide them, but the thing I'm thinking of is like the classic thing that everybody thinks dyslexia is something you can't spell. And there's lots of other things tied in with it. So somebody, for argument's sake, I'm dyslexic, I can't spell. But actually, have you thought of this, this, and this? And then they come to ideas that help them along. Am I thinking correctly?
Yeah. So you could have someone who may struggle with administration tasks. Whether it be including writing emails. So we could look to whether you could dictate them. You could look at, they could have to be not comfortable sending, maybe there's someone that never send emails actually, and they're procrastinating on them. Why are they procrastinating on them? Don't feel actually comfortable with the words I've chosen. Right. So then we start digging down more. So what could you do to make yourself feel comfortable? Take my kind of example of my mediation and my medication. I had identified that I needed to have a proofreader. So I've had people kind of go, actually, if I got so-and-so to read it, or someone's come up, I'll just use the functionality on the computer for it to read it back to me.
Yes.
Yeah. And some of it can be just coming up with really simple strategies. Other times it can be me throwing an idea and saying, have you thought about, you've got this wonderful checklist that's on a piece of paper in front of you, but have you thought about putting that onto like a Excel spreadsheet and using it as an electronic form? Because, they've been conscious about the amount of paper they're wasting. And actually, then if paper gets lost, they've lost a piece of paper, the GDPR side of things. And once it's lost, it's forgotten about. So then I might give a suggestion about an Excel spreadsheet, and then they'll go, yes, I could do this, and I could. So then it's developed from there. Okay.
Yeah, I could see that. And I get the feeling quite a lot of it. That's kind of very practical, tactical solutions or hacks. But I get the feeling you probably do a lot of mindset stuff as well, based on what we spoke about already. I bet there's a lot of reframing and mindset stuff that you get into.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of difficult to talk about without a specific case study, but what sort of things do you find? Because your particular coaching is aimed at leaders and managers, I've seen on your website. What particular mindset thing do you find are more of a problem with a dyslexic leader or manager?
Around that confidence of being able to do things, I'd say that is one of the main areas. And them still feeling that their dyslexia is holding them back in some way. Sometimes it's actually they haven't shared their dyslexia with their department. So we'll explore why not. Why aren't they doing that? And then depending on the reasons given, that could be about their thoughts and feelings about their dyslexia themselves. So then we'll look at why they feel that, who's told them that, where that belief has come from, and throwing doubt on things. I've had people say, I can't write reports. Really? You can't write reports. How did you, and then you kind of talk through, have you never written a report? Well, yes, I did a college or at uni, or I did even in my previous job. Okay. So you can write reports. Oh yeah, but the last one I did got pulled apart. Okay, so the last one you did, so then you start examining and looking at it like that and trying to throw doubt and counter-argue where that commentary has come from in one's head. And it's also about refraining how we talk to ourselves. We can be so cruel to ourselves and horrible to ourselves in how we talk to ourselves, and that's not helping us. And you wouldn't maybe say that to your best friend or your partner or a family member. And I know it seems silly, but some of it can be that simple of you wouldn't talk to someone else like that. So why is it okay to talk to yourself?
Yes, I heard a really good quote somewhere, and it's treat yourself like somebody you are responsible for caring for.
Yeah. And it is about loving yourself and having that respect for yourself. And, we don't need to beat ourselves up with a stick.
No, no.
We really don't. So it's about changing that terminology within our heads on how we speak to ourselves and trying to throw a positive light onto it.
Do you find most of your clients are new into leadership and management roles? Have they just recently promoted, or have they still got dyslexia holding them back, even though they've been a manager for 10 years and got quite a lot of evidence to the contrary that they can do the job?
Yeah, it seems to be a mix. And I think with people that are new to management, it's more about having that fear of actually how do you manage people, and are you going to get found out? This found out and this imposter syndrome that crops up all the time. That is there, I'd say, throughout every kind of bit. There's always seems to be a bit of imposter syndrome there. And I think it also depends on when the person finds out they're dyslexic. So if they've been in a manager's role for a while, then they find out they're dyslexic. It's like, oh, okay. What's all this? Is this a reason? And it's trying to make sure they understand that and they, deal with that, however their feelings are. Some people find out and they're like, oh, yes, that makes sense.
Yes,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Whereas other people, it's scary. It can be scary and it can really knock them again.
Yes, I imagine it. Yeah, having found out at 6, I've never had that late find out moment, but I've always thought it'd be like, aha, that's that. But I hadn't thought of it from the other side where it'd be like, I've got this. But you were the same person you were yesterday. You've just seen an education psychologist today.
Yeah. And you've now, and for some people, I now got a label. And unfortunately, still, even though there's so much positive work going on with dyslexia, there is still some stigma there. Unfortunately
so, yes.
There is. So for some people, when they find out later on, that dyslexia for them will come with negative stigma.
Yes, yeah. That's, it is moving in the right direction, but...
yeah, it is.
Slowly, unfortunately.
But to me, it doesn't matter how slow, because it is moving and it is changing and it is making a difference. Things like this are helping. The more people that can talk about it and be open and honest, the easier it will be for, in my mind, the younger generation moving forward to be open and honest. And that, for me, is why it's important.
Yes. I just want to flip the sort of script on its head with talking to clients, leaders and managers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're guilty of this, but I certainly am. That stuff that's just, it's just what I do. Is actually a dyslexic strength that I'm completely blind to the fact it's a dyslexic strength. And I'm like, well, I just do it. It's just done and it's done. What's the problem? Let's get on with it. How have you found with that getting people to realize that as well? That actually, yes, we spoke about some of the deficit thinking and so how people can see stuff as deficit, or dealing with tips and tricks to help with, say, spelling for argument's sake. But actually making people realize the positive side of dyslexia, what that can bring, and actually some of this stuff that you just do, realizing that other people can't necessarily just do it. And that's a very unique talent you have. How are you finding teasing that out of people?
That I love.
Yes,
because it is like,
I can imagine.
It's like a little light bulb moment. And it's that realization of, wow, no, not everyone can do that. No, not everyone can do that. Not everyone will have that creative side to them, or, will be able to do that big picture thinking, whatever it is. And it's that, I think, is the strength of dyslexia, and making people realize that is really, really key. And I think so much more work needs to be done on that at a younger age when the diagnosis is occurring. So then you're given the strengths with the positives and you can work on them. And they need to be highlighted.
Yes.
I didn't know my own. I had to have other people point them out to me.
Yeah. What are yours then?
Yeah. Mine are my problem kind of solving skills. I have such a vivid imagination. It's brilliant, but wow, it can be scary at the same time. I'd love to kind of like plug it in and download. So I think there'd be some amazing films up there. But yeah, my creativity to the kids when they were younger, I wouldn't read them stories because reading stories was hard work and painful, and I would read in a monotone voice to them, which they found a bit boring.
Yeah.
So I would make up stories. So we would go to bed, turn the light off, which meant the light was off. So it was a calmer, darker environment for them. And I would just make up stories. And I would normally try and link them in with if there'd been something happening at school that day for them, or if I knew they were struggling on something, I would try and link it in with that. And they still now will say, I used to love your stories. And they would have friends over for kind of sleepover, and I would just tell these stories, and they found them brilliant. But for me, it's just something I did. It was easy. And I thought lots of parents could do that. Apparently not.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, sat around a parent meeting, and I tell my kids, you do what? How long does it take you to think of them? On the spot.
Yeah, I just make them up as I go along. I mean, I remember writing in the book, please don't send my child back with dinosaur books to read, because I couldn't read the name of the dinosaurs in primary school. So I was like, I'm really sorry, I can't do those ones. So I'd get them to read, but it got to a certain age where actually I was no good reading with them because I wouldn't know if they were saying the word wrong or not. So love making up stories. Problem solving is another one, and the communication. I honestly thought they were just normal skills that everyone had.
Yes. Yeah.
And now it wasn't until they were pointed out, and I was like, and then reading articles and linking them in with the dyslexia, I was like, these are because I'm dyslexic? Oh, wow, this is cool. These are plaited all together.
Yes, you are totally right with actually school level kids who do get found out at 5, 6, 7 do need to be aware of that, as they're sat in a system that doesn't necessarily highlight it at the minute. I wish you just get we both spoke about in the podcast, the kind of negative emotional side tied to it that leads you through at least your 20s, I found. So yeah, it is. It's really cool. And I imagine having a coaching business tailored towards dyslexics where you see that kind of like more moment happen all the time must be really super rewarding.
Yeah, it is. I love the coaching side of it. I love and I think that's the thing, is I enjoy it probably as much as the client. The client gets so much out of it, but I get so much out of it. And that for me is what it's all about. It's that helping people, and it's those light bulb moments, and it's those, okay, I've worked something out that's going to help me. And it's like, yeah, you did it. You worked it out. You found it. Here you go. And that's, it's just magical.
Oh, yes, I imagine it is. And they pay you at the end, so it's even better.
I know. And that's a bonus.
But it is really cool to find something you really like doing. And
it is.
Support yourself out off the back of it as well.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I've even found my son who's dyslexic, he's worked out now sometimes when we have a coaching call, which is a more, Mum, I'm just calling to have a chat about, and I'm like, here we go.
Yes.
But he's learned that actually I'm not going to give him the answers.
No.
But he's realised how empowering it is for himself when we do that. So I do it for the other children that aren't dyslexic as well. It's just, I just love that coaching side of it. Just absolutely love it.
Well, great. I'm glad you've now set up a business that you can indulge in that passion even more. And hopefully you're gaining more clients at the time, because the business can't be that old, can it, being set up this year?
No, it can't. And I think that's the thing is, I've realised I'd been doing coaching so much within my HR role. And because I was operations manager as well, I looked after so many different departments. So I looked after the estates department, the IT department, the HR department. I was managing lots of different people. So I realised I was actually coaching lots of department leaders as well. That's when I realised, actually, this is what I really enjoy as a manager. I was really enjoying that. And then I was like, actually, I could make and turn this. And it was by having one of those department leads that was dyslexic. And they felt confident to share to me, which they hadn't done before, having me as their manager and coaching them, and actually coaching them up and out of the business to a higher level. That's when I was like, I know what I want to do. I want to focus on dyslexic people. That's where my passion is.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Well, cool. So I'm going to start bringing this podcast to a close. And I asked 3 questions that all the guests have been on the podcast. So I've asked these 27 times already. Wow. Where's it all gone? So they are rapid fire questions from me. They don't need rapid fire answers from you, though. So let's start with question number 1. What prejudice did you have about dyslexia that has been proven wrong?
I thought I was thick and stupid as a child. And I overheard people saying that I was, but I know damn right I'm not. And I've proven that to myself. And I also thought the dyslexia would cap my abilities. And that's bloody rubbish.
Not just
like lighting the firework under it and blowing the lid off that one.
And that was the university thing did that for you, did it?
Yeah,
yes.
It was.
Yeah.
And it's been, don't get me wrong, it's brilliant to hear about lots of famous people being dyslexic. That's great. But for me, it's more about hearing the other people in amongst organisations that are like me.
Yes.
That's where I find it more appealing.
The driving force behind setting this podcast up is what you've just described. Because it's a big disconnect, isn't it? Like, yes, but what about the engineers or the HR professionals, the accountants or the lawyers, the people who are just in organisations who are thriving and dyslexic as well?
Yeah.
Okay, question number 2. If an alien landed and asked you to describe dyslexia to them, what would you tell them?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I like that one. The first thing that comes to my mind is a box of joy and mystery.
Interesting.
But but I don't know why. So why would I say that? Because I think it is a box of all different things. It is a box of joy because you can have fun with it and there's some real strengths with it.
Mm.
There are some frustrations with it, and I'm not going to lie and say there aren't, because there are. But it's understanding those frustrations and being able to either laugh with them, laugh about them, find strategies to cope with them. Maybe it's like a toolbox.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe it's like a toolbox. But the only thing I don't like saying is like a toolbox is because I remember in one of my assessments being told that dyslexia is like a toolbox, but you haven't got the key to get into it. Well, what bloody use is that?
What?
Yes.
What are they even trying to tell you?
You've got the tools, you just don't know how to use them.
Oh, great.
But actually, maybe that would be the best way of describing it to an alien, in the sense of it's like a toolbox that is open and I know exactly how to use all the tools because there's so many different things there for me. But some tools I'm going to struggle to use more because some nuts may be more difficult to get off with a wrench than a spanner.
Some tools you just need slightly different training on.
Yes. And it all depends where you hold the hammer.
Or the size of it.
Exactly.
Cool. And the final question from me on this podcast, and seeing as this is the Dyslexia Life Hacks Show, what is your favourite dyslexia life hack?
It's got to be Hey Siri, really, in that sense. That is I love it. It's my best friend. Yeah, it's got to be.
I want to say Hey Siri is hack number 1 on the website. I'm sure it's the very first one I put on there.
It's got to be that, and just all the fun. Having reminders on my phone. I live by my reminders, and that's absolutely that's golden to me, having my reminders on there.
Yes, it's a very good tool, a modern mobile phone, for keeping everything in tow.
Yeah, and what I find is if I put a reminder in, 9 out of 10 times, I remember the reminder anyway, if that makes sense. So it goes off and I'm like, oh yeah, I know about that reminder. I've already done it. Or I know.
More of a safety net.
Absolutely. But safety net's really important.
Yes, safety net, most definitely. Okay, before we sign off, is there anything you'd like to add or tell people where they can find you, particularly your coaching business, if they want to come talk to you?
You can find me at kirstyheap.com. I'm on Facebook as well and Instagram. So you'll be able to find me on there. And if anyone actually just wants to reach out and just have a chat about how they're finding it and their dyslexia, I do free kind of discovery calls to start with. So reach out and have a chat.
Okay, well, I will drop them links in the show notes as well. And I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you. No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been really good fun and quite interesting hearing your story, and particularly your university days. And I want to thank everybody else for taking the time to listen. And I will see you lot in the next episode. Goodbye for now.